Welcome to 2 cents Short of a Dollar, the show where we give our 2 cents and keep it 100. We're your host. That's Mo Tiz, and I'm Rue. Today, I want to talk about some boxing. Shakur Stevenson, a name that stays in the boxing news, probably because he stays on Twitter a lot, so it's hard to forget about Shakur. But Shakur's been going back and forth with a lot of people. It's been T.O., it's been Floyd Schofield. There's a rumored fight about him versus Ray Muratalla coming up possibly in June, but I know Ray has a fight coming up at the end of this month, if I'm not mistaken. So my question for you is this good for Shakur, or are you kind of getting annoyed with seeing Shakur constantly on the Twitter? But it seems like some of the fights have unreal expectations of getting made.
I wouldn't say I'm getting annoyed. I'm just saying in my head, where's it going, right? I know him and Kid Austin kind of had their little back and forth, playing a little matchmaking there. But ultimately, where's that going, right? If it's not going to go anywhere, then, forget the back and forth. But maybe in the future, the Raymond fight, people are saying that's going to be a fantastic fight. I don't know much about Raymond, so I can't really speak too much about that. But I'm all for, exciting fights. And we would like to see Shakur get back in the ring. His claims of being retired, we knew that was going to just be a short stint. And ultimately, just curious to see what he's going to do next, And then, of course, I know his talks or his back and forth with Teofimo Lopez specifically, and he said he's willing to move up to fight Teofimo. But I take it as all talk for now.
Right. Him and Keyshawn are kind of saying the same thing. And I mean, they both can't fight Tio at the same time. So I don't know what to make of that, right? But the Raymond Muratalla fight, that sounds like something that can be made. It would be actually kind of interesting to see because I don't know much about his resume per se. So I can't tell you what his best win is, but he's 19-0 with 16 knockouts, right? So is there power there, or is he just fighting guys not on his level? And it would be interesting to see Shakur in there if his power is for real, to see him in there with another guy with power, just to see how he reacts to the power, right? Because now the scouting report out on Shakur is that if you have power, he's going to run. You're going to make him uncomfortable. So it'd be interesting to see him debunk that rumor. You know what I mean? I think that would make that fight interesting. They were saying Floyd Schofield didn't really look ready. In his last fight, he leaped in on a lot of punches, and a lot of people felt like they could take advantage of that. But it just doesn't seem like a fight that is brewing, right? A lot of times, and apologies for always lumping them in together, Shakur and Keyshawn, but because they roll so closely and Shakur is a bit deeper in his career, Floyd Schofield seems more like a Keyshawn fight per se than a Shakur fight, if that makes sense. Two guys who are still up and coming. Not saying that it's a 50-50 fight, but it seems more so like that would make sense than for him to jump and fight Shakur, who's actually a champion right now.
100% agree with that. And I see why Kid Austin's team is wanting to get that Shakur fight, because they want to kind of just leap the ladder and get those big money fights. They have more to gain and less to lose compared to Shakur Stevenson. I'm all for big fights, but I would much rather see the Keyshawn versus Kid Austin fight, especially since they had a spat in the past as well. So why not fight people who are up and coming, right? Your peers, to get to the top, not necessarily try to skip the line and try to get those big money fights,
Yeah, right. And just for me, those 140 name call outs, it means nothing to me unless you're gonna say, all right, I'm done with 135, I'm going to 140. I want to see Tio, I want to see Devin Haney, I want to see those guys at 140, I want to see Subriel Matias. But if you don't want to do that right now, then just leave the guys alone. I don't think catchweight fights are gonna happen. I don't think those guys are coming back to 135. So I would just say leave those guys alone and focus on 135. Obviously, we know Shakur really wants the Vasily Lomachenko fight. Lomachenko has to take care of business against Kambosos, but try to line up a unification. And I know he said he's been trying to do it, but there was a tweet. Who did he tweet? Was he tweeting at T.O. when he was like, "Oh, I call Bob. Bob doesn't seem like he basically. I call Bob. Bob's BSing or something like that." He had a tweet. There was a tweet that going. That was with T.O. Right?
I don't remember, but I believe it was with Tio. I believe it was with Tio.
And I just don't know. I feel like you just call Bob and Bob's just BSing. Yeah, sorry. All right, so this ain't gonna happen. I feel like if you guys
or have my team hit me up.
You know what I'm saying? I feel like if you guys really come to the table and you want to make this happen under the Top Rank umbrella, it's possible. That's just my opinion. I don't see how Bob Arum loses. You know what I'm saying? Because whoever wins, it's just gonna be more so of his guy. I'm gonna kind of run with this guy. You know what I mean? It's like a win-win situation for him. So I just think I would like to see Shakur dial back the Twitter stuff a bit. Obviously, you have to promote yourself, so I'm not mad about that. But it's just like these fantasy fights that aren't coming to fruition. It just kind of starts to like bug me a little bit. That's just kind of how I feel about the situation.
No, I definitely hear you. I mean, I can see it that way for sure, but I also see it kind of in a way of it may open up future opportunities, right? Kind of,
Hmm.
oh, we've had this little spat here. We can kind of use that as motivation to potentially line up a fight in the future. But I do agree with the point. It's all talk up until you guys sign a contract, or you kind of actions speak louder than words ultimately. So that's
Yeah.
what matters, especially in the sport of boxing nowadays.
Yeah, we know it's only a matter of time before the Javante thing comes back up with Shakur. If Javante and Frank Martin do fight, I don't think it's been officially announced yet, but if they fight, right, it's only a matter of time before the Javante thing come back into play, or the Frank Martin thing comes back into play. So I know there's a lot of options, but I feel like you got to make something happen. In the past, obviously, I wanted him to fight Jermaine Ortiz, but Jermaine Ortiz is at 140 now. But I just want to ask this quick question: after both of their last performances, and I know you remember that I was saying I think that's the fight Shakur should make. This is obviously when Jermaine was at 135. Do you think that would have actually turned out to be a good fight?
Hard to say, because I do think the way they fought their opponents, they would not have fought the same way. But of course, let's say hypothetically speaking, Shakur and Jermaine Ortiz fought each other prior to
Mm-hmm.
them fighting their adversaries, right? And Shakur might have been injured, so that plays a whole dynamic factor. If he remains injured, then he might have fought the same way. Whereas with Jermaine Ortiz, he's not fighting a big puncher, so he probably would have came through the gates a bit more aggressive.
Mm-hmm.
And now let's say we flip it, and now they fight. Hypothetically, Jermaine decides to come back to 135 and fights Shakur Stevenson. I think it'll probably be more of an exciting fight because they both took some criticism, and I
Mm-hmm.
think now because they have that effect from the media and the viewers, they're gonna probably like, you know what, let's make it more exciting as opposed to my own safety in the ring. So
Mm-hmm. And obviously, I'm not calling for that fight because they're not at the same weight class. And I literally just said leave the different. But I was just saying because I remember when Shakur was saying it's hard to find an opponent, and I was just thinking like, what would be a good fight for Shakur? And at the time, Jermaine was at 135, so I thought it would be a good fight. So I'm kind of thinking who else would be a good fight for Shakur right now? But maybe it'll be Muratalo. You know what I'm saying? But I have to kind of like view the landscape. Obviously, Lomachenko,
mhm.
but that's the fight he wants. I'm trying to see if there's any like like hidden gems out there that'd be a good fight versus Shakur right now. I kind of got to look at the landscape and see what I think would be a good fight. But definitely want to see him back in the ring. Want to see him,
Probably William Cepeda, especially with the way he came off his last win. But then again, I don't know. I don't think he's a match for Shakur Stevenson. So no. Matter of fact, scratch that. We'll we'll not even entertain that.
yeah. Well, who do you guys want to see Shakur Stevenson in the ring with? Obviously, some of the big names, Tank, Lomachenko. But is there anybody that we're forgetting that you think would be a very good fight against Shakur Stevenson that we're not thinking of right now? Go ahead and drop that in the comment section. And after you do that, make sure you like and subscribe to the channel.